I was really, really struggling with my mental health, but I wasn't really letting anyone know I was struggling. And I find this video. It was this giant army soldier. And at this forum, he's talking about that he lost his brother in arms to suicide and that he was really close to doing that as well until he found.
She was a rising star in entertainment, but behind the scenes, she was battling with PTSD, panic attacks, and an eating disorder until one day, this thing called meditation came into her life and changed it forever. Today's guest is the author of Magnetic, a meditation teacher, and a leading voice in subconscious reprogramming. Please welcome to the show, Rochelle Fox. Was there any moments where you were kind of in these rock bottoms where you're like, all right, like things need to change, and what did that look like?
When I started to become really suicidal, I was sort of in this place where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't think I can handle this anymore. I really need some help. I went to this cognitive behavioral therapist finally, and I, for the first time, really opened up about what was going on with me. So I have a lot of things that happen in my childhood from the ages of like 5 to 7. There were things that I would never wish on any human being. And we were just sitting there and she had this book on the table. The top of the book said PTSD. And I read these 2 pages on what PTSD is, like medical. And I was like, this explains everything. If I can label it, then I can kill it.
How does that look like from a person trying to start out in their journey?
If I could burn it all down, take it to ground zero, if I could start it all again, what would I do differently from a blank slate?
Rochelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Being magnetic isn't something you become, it's who you are already. What does that mean?
Love that question. So I think when we talk about being magnetic, a lot of people talk about becoming magnetic. And it's a really interesting thing when I first started writing my book, Magnetic. In some way, I wanted to write a chapter on becoming magnetic, how you can become magnetic. And that was like the automatic thing that I thought of. But when I dived a lot deeper into it, I realized that we're always magnetic because a magnet has 2 poles. It attracts and it repels. So you're already repelling things in your life and you're already attracting things in your life. But I think people just like to focus on the, I'm attracting this, I'm attracting this. We don't like the responsibility piece of like, actually, what are the things that I want to attract that I'm currently repelling?
So is that where people get manifesting wrong?
It's interesting. Maybe I think for some people, they think that they forget that you're also repelling things. I think a lot of people just focus on the attracting piece. So 100%, I think a lot of people don't want to take responsibility for the things in their life, the patterns, the loops that might be causing the situations that they keep being stuck into. And I think that that's a really hard thing for a lot of people, responsibility, admitting where we're maybe not being our best self, maybe where we are being in that victim mentality, maybe where we are repeating the same loops and just kind of being stuck in something that we're blind to because subconsciously it's going on and consciously we just don't realize it's there.
Yeah. So it's basically the action step from this is basically a self-reflection, looking within and kind of like an assessment of your life and assessing where it is. Because if we're applying it to manifesting, I've spoken about it a couple of times, and unfortunately, the word manifesting is a bit of a buzzword, and
it's a loaded word.
It's a loaded word,
kind of like meditation these days. I feel like we have these words in the English language, like manifesting or meditation, and the thing is, a word is subjective. Your concept of a word is completely different to my concept of a word. The origins of the word, when you go back in the word in like Latin or something, is usually completely different from what we've made the word to be. And I find that you're exactly on the money there because that happens all the time. Happiness means something completely different to one person to someone else. So we have the definitions of things, but then we have like the interpretation of the definition.
Yeah. So if we're looking at this initial question that we started on, or the quote that we started on, is like, instead of trying to become it, to realize that you already are the thing, what does that look like? If you go and listen and go, okay, I've just been trying to become and become, but now I need to actually be and realize I'm already the person. How does that look like from a person trying to start out in their journey?
I think so. When I talk about magnetic in general, I'm really talking about the subconscious mind because we're always manifesting from our subconscious. So our subconscious mind is really like the core foundation of everything that we're attracting. It's the programmed mind. And the thing when you go back and you really think about that is that you have to look at where your life is right now and take inventory and realize that what you're attracting right now, how your life is right now, is what you are coded for. And so if you are attracting a lot of lack or a lot of scarcity or a lot of fuckboys and a lot of like repeated situationships with people, it's probably because you are in a pattern of that. There is something about you that is attracting that or is accepting that standard. So you have to sort of take inventory of where you are right now. And where you are right now is a result of your past. And a lot of people just keep manifesting, keep creating their future from the past. They don't ever actually create their future from the present. Like you can be whoever you will yourself to be. You can decide right now to become a completely different person. But that decision requires you changing things in the now and not operating from your past programming. And that can be really difficult for some people because we're attached to this old version of ourselves and we feel comfortable in the old version of ourselves. We feel safe in that old version of ourselves. We sometimes feel safe in things that aren't good for us. I felt really safe for so much of my life in things that weren't good for me. I was really safe for many of my years being someone that needed saving, like that was like a victim that needed help, that needed someone to come and save me and protect me because that was something that felt safe. It felt safe to give my power away to other people, not to realize that I was the creator, just to like let everything go.
Yeah, this is a very interesting concept because I guess it's there's so many different ways to put it, but like manifesting isn't necessarily a good or bad thing. It just is. It's going whether your life is good, whether it's bad, it's because you're manifesting that, it's reflecting the way you're being and the way you're showing up. And so perhaps if you're keeping in your reference there of attracting a fuckboy, it's like maybe there's something in that person that is filling a part of you that maybe you feel like you need to be filled or whatever. So then, and because you're not resolving it or you're not even identifying, you're not even conscious of why you're attracting these people and you're not reflecting when things go wrong, you just keep ending up in the same spot.
Yeah, 100%.
I guess it's that victim mentality. People want to blame the mirror for what they see in it. It's like people just blame the mirror, not realizing that the mirror is just reflecting you. And I've been working a lot on subconscious programming at the moment and realizing that obviously like the identity is then creating our stories and then those stories are creating our actions and the actions are creating our environment.
Yeah.
And just being able to reprogram it on a subconscious level is the way. It's like being that person and then having that life. Obviously a big part of Magnetic and your book is talking about the influence that the subconscious mind has. Why so?
I, for many years, was manifesting without really diving deep into the subconscious mind. So I was kind of doing surface-based manifesting, like conscious-based manifesting.
Does that look like?
For me, that just looks like having a conscious desire and saying like, I want to create this or I want to do this and just working on a conscious level, not realizing that there's all of these things beneath the surface, not realizing that there's automatic programs, not getting into the identity piece. So I think a lot of the times we can say that we want something or we want to change something, but we're not doing that like deeper level work. So for me, that's like, how are you actually showing up when no one else is looking?
Yeah.
That's a huge thing because people will be like, they'll show up for Instagram. They'll show me like, oh, this is what it looks like. But then as soon as the camera's off, the house is a mess. The outfit they were wearing is to the side. The hair goes up in a bun, that they lay on the couch and scroll for, doom scroll for like 8 hours. And they've made this like perfect ideal of what they want it to consciously look like, but their subconscious programming. So like their actual core self isn't reflecting what it is that they want to create. And I think that that's for me, the subconscious mind is such an interesting thing because it really goes back into our patterning. So from, I guess, the things that we've collected along the years that have sort of made us the way that we are in an automatic way. And a lot of the times we go into the subconscious mind, we'll find things that are a little funky, that don't really make sense. Like the subconscious mind is formed really generally from the ages of 0 to 7. Like that is when you were a sponge. It's really our learning to be human years. Before that, you come into this world and yes, you might have some kind of built up coding from like past lives, if you believe in that. And there might be some things that you might have come into this world with, but you're really imprinted. You're like this empty box that someone is programming. It's like this empty system and you're taking in all of these things. And a kid doesn't really have like a conscious awareness of like what is right and wrong or why things are. So for example, if you've got a little kid and you're walking onto a plane and they're getting a plane for the first time and maybe they're walking past first class and business class and they say to their mum and their dad like, oh, Mum, Dad, are we sitting here? No, honey, this isn't for people like us. We're sitting down the back. that's fine. You're getting on a flight. That's still a really amazing thing to do. It's a very privileged thing for anyone to be able to get into a flight. But that kid now goes, oh, these 2 front seats aren't for people like me. And that will just be like a program that they'll run in their head that that's separate from me. And they don't have a conscious understanding that like, oh, it's just people that have invested more money to go fly in these seats. And anyone can go fly in these seats if you work hard and do this thing and align everything, can accumulate an amount of money that you want to go spend on a seat, right? It's this very interesting thing where kids don't consciously understand. They then go, oh, I'm separate from this.
Yeah, they develop an interpretation on how something is.
Yes.
And then that kind of gives them this subconscious belief that it's a fact.
Yeah, and then they'll start separating themselves. So that's just one example. Or you could, turn around and say like, oh, money is really hard, or this is really hard, or success is something that comes with sacrifice. All these little phrases that you might have heard growing up, they will create your foundational programming, your core programming about the things that you're doing in your life. And even it's not even just things that people say, it's like how they observed people growing up, right? It's the situations that you observed. And then you now then have this program about like, oh, that's the way this is.
Yeah. Is it a matter of reprogramming that, or is it a matter of like identifying it and going, okay, this is a belief that I've then onboarded. Let's try and use this and try and like maybe see a good in this, or like, is it a matter of reprogramming your mind? Is that what it is? Identifying it and then reprogramming that subconscious?
For me, it has always been like a method of reprogramming at 100%. So it's going in there and figuring out like, where do I not have supportive programs of the things that I want to go create in my life. So if I want to go and be an entrepreneur, what part of my programming says that I can't do that, or that that's not possible for me? Where does that belief come from? Where did I hear that? How can I work through that? How can I see that that was just a silly little thing? So much of my subconscious programming has been like recoded from going back in my past, finding these like very small, minuscule, kind of like laughable moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I picked up that belief from that like little tiny moment in my life. I'll give you an example. When I was little at Christmas, I was given a boogie board, okay? And at the time, all of my cousins got not as big a present as this. And I got this boogie board because my auntie at the time and I had gone through something quite significant, something quite traumatic. And I think that she really wanted to give it to me as a sign that like, it's going to be okay. But then at Christmas, I got this giant boogie board and I'm so excited and I'm so happy. But in this moment of getting this boogie board, I witnessed all of my cousins feeling maybe a little jealous, maybe a bit like, why does Rochelle get this giant boogie board? And I remember in that moment, me having this sense of like, it feels unsafe to have something more than someone else because it's going to cause like resentment. It's going to cause people to be jealous. So from that, I had to recode this belief that it's not safe to celebrate success. It's not safe to have an abundance of things. It's better to hide things. It's better to minimize things, because if I celebrate myself, then maybe people won't love me. Maybe I'll be rejected. That's such a tiny little thing from a boogie board.
But it shapes your whole reality.
That one little thing shaped so much of my feelings, being able to just celebrate myself. So for so many years, I wasn't able to celebrate myself. I would never really post big moments or do big things because this idea that like, oh my gosh, people won't like me, or like I'm going to lose love. So much of our subconscious programming just comes from like a protector part of wanting to protect ourselves from losing love, losing attention, losing a sense of safety, feeling like we're going to be rejected. And so I had to go back in that and realize, well, that was just a moment. Like that didn't mean all the things that I thought it meant. And maybe that memory isn't even exactly how I remember it. Maybe it was just like my little kid self, like exacerbating something.
I guess the problem with that though, especially in places like Australia, is the culture supports that negative environment.
Are we going to go into tall poppy syndrome?
Well, that's exactly what you're explaining there as well. And so the culture supports it. So more likely than not, people are going to have experiences like that, and it's going to form their way that they view the world, the way that they show up. And so being able to reprogram that is actually quite hard, because what you're doing is you're going against what may be seen as connection, because you're going against what people are bonding and connecting over, and then you don't want to feel like you're not part of a tribe. So then you kind of just comply to these beliefs and then reinforce them, and then next minute you're just in this cycle of tall poppy syndrome. And that's probably maybe a reason why when you've done all your travel and gone around overseas and stuff, you've liked the environment a bit more, because when you're trying to achieve something that is probably not supported, especially when you don't have results. Like no one's cheering for you in Australia when you haven't made something of yourself. So probably would you say that all the travel that you've had in your life, a big thing that kind of you loved about that travel is maybe that culture was a little bit different?
Oh, yeah. 100%. Tall poppy syndrome in Australia is a very interesting thing. It is real. These days, I don't like to focus on it because I think what you put your energy on is what you'll attract. I've been very fortunate to have a really beautiful community of people in Australia that I connect with that cheer me on and I cheer them on. But it is a cultural thing. It is part of our cultural identity. And it's a sad thing, I think. I think that's probably for me one of the challenging things about Australia. And maybe I think just like a sad thing because I think we could be as a nation if we all just got behind each other and supported one another, it would be phenomenal to have that identity culture shift. I hope that it happens in my lifetime because it doesn't do us any favors. It doesn't do our economy any favors. It doesn't do our entrepreneurial scene any favors. It is something that I think holds us back as a nation. And for me, traveling overseas, I have always been, so I started traveling and kind of left Australia back in 2016. And since then I've been a digital nomad, living in all these different places, moving around. And one of the things I love about being an expat is no one is from there. Everyone's a visitor. So you have just like a different mentality of like, we're all in this together. Like I'm in a foreign place, you're in a foreign place. Like let's help lift each other up. Let's support one another. And people that do that, they also have a lot more skin in the game. When you leave somewhere and, for example, you're leaving soon, I don't know if you've announced that, but you're leaving soon. When you leave somewhere and you go somewhere else, it's a completely different connection that you'll have with other people because people see this sense of, oh, you've risked something. You've let go of everything. Like you're taking a risk and that has like a completely different energy to it to someone that's just like, yeah, this is where I grew up. This is where I'm from. And you just form like deeper connections.
It definitely does. The challenge with being an expat though is this potential lack of feeling like you have a home. And it sucks that you have to leave your hometown and remove this feeling of having a home to have that feeling of support. But when we think about support, I don't think it's all about just cheering each other on because I think there's toxic positivity and there's toxic cheering, yes man nature that you even find in Australian cultures as well because they want to fit in. But I think support in its truest form is being able to like have their best intentions at heart, put yourself in their shoes, support them for giving something a red hot crack. And with that, if you truly care about them, it's not just about saying yes, 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 because then when they fail, you probably already had in your mind, oh, like, yeah, they probably weren't going to do well, but I just wanted to cheer them on. It's like, okay, let's be constructive here in the most supportive and loving way and help everyone lift up because just saying yes, 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 and cheering everyone on for everything they're doing is just kind of like a yes man nature. And I actually don't think it levels everyone up. But if we can be a true friend to those people around us, that's where we can level up. And unfortunately, that does go against the culture. There's a level of friction that comes with that.
To me, support, my definition of support is being there when you're up and when you're down. That to me is support. Support isn't just like I'm there for you when you're here. Support to me, the people that I think are supportive in my life are there through all the stages of my growth. They're telling me, yo, get back up when you're down or like what happened? And they're there having a conversation with me about the hard stuff. They're not just there when I'm winning.
Yeah. And I think it can get there. And I think the more people are kind of embarking on these journeys where they are making more decisions for themselves and it's becoming more normalized, I think the progression could come.
Yeah.
Can we talk about younger Rochelle? What were some of the things that you were doing as a kid? Did you have any hobbies? What were your interests? And how were you kind of growing up?
I was always a kid that loved entertaining. So I always loved performing, talking, speech Stedfords, poetry, writing, anything where I was on a stage, anything where I've always loved, I've gone through such a journey of like why I love that. And the thing that I've found, like the common thread is I love having an impact on people's energy. I love being able to alter someone's energy in a positive way or make people feel something. That for me has been like such a common theme. I used to DJ in like my early 20s as well. And when I think back to why I loved that at the time, it was like because I was controlling people's energy. I loved nothing more back in the day when I was DJing, when it was like last like few songs and there were just like two people on the dance floor. And I was just like watching these two people. I'm like, all right, I want this girl to feel as sexy as she possibly can, be completely in her feminine. I want this man to feel completely in his masculine. And I want to watch the synergy of these two people just getting to that point where I know, oh, it is on. And I love that energy control. I just love having some sort of influence on people's energy in a positive way. And I think that that's one of the most beautiful things you can do as a human being. Like, you know, a dog, when you meet a dog and they're just like so excited and they impact your energy in such a way. I'm such an animal person. I love that about life and about being a human, and that you can choose to show up and influence people's energy and kind of just be, I guess, like a radio and a frequency tuner for people. So
impacting people's energy. I've never heard of it put that way before. Yeah. It's so cool because if you think about it, it's all the little things that we can do as well. Obviously, you're explaining that more extremes, like when you're on the DJ decks or whenever you're doing something.
Here I am
online.
talking about people getting laid.
Yeah, exactly. That's exciting, thrilling.
Well, for
if you go to that moment though, when you're in that moment, that is quite a thrilling time.
I think it's like that's like for me like the epitome of like love. I'm talking about for me when you see just people in that sexual energy, like sexual attraction, and when people are in that sexual energy, that to me is like, whoo, that's exciting. Like you can viscerally feel that. You know, when you're around someone and that people just have that thing going on, to be part of that with music or to be part of that. I don't think I've ever had that with performing. I've only had that experience DJing. Yeah. I've never talked and felt like I've turned someone on. But I think like if you do a speech or anytime I've, run a retreat or something and then someone's come back to me and said like, this has impacted my life in this way. I'm like, wow, that's incredible that my energy, my essence, the things that were close to my heart and authentic to me had that impact on your life. Like, oh, that to me is legacy. Like I want to just do that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, so cool. But there's even on a smaller scale, the way we can do that and have an impact on someone's energy just throughout our days.
Oh, 100%.
Asking for the person making your coffee's name, like the smallest little things, and just being able to kind of disrupt their patterns of what their Groundhog's Day nature is going throughout their day. You can truly make an impact in such small ways, like just being able to say hello, or when someone's chaos or running around at work and you can just say something to them and pause and try and slow their energy down and make them feel a bit more calm and relax.
Yeah.
All these little things are so simple. They're so free. Yeah, I think we forget because we're in a bit of a chaos state as well, but being able to do that to people, I think is so important, and I really try to.
I think if you look at every single person in life as like a 5 or 7-year-old, I just look at people as children. Like to me, you're a little kid, not because you're a little kid, but like that's how I see everyone. I see everyone as like the little version of themselves, like the little them. I think you need to remember that everybody wants to be seen and heard.
Yeah.
We're all just kids. Like this flesh puppet thing is like this flesh puppet adult body thing. I don't know about you, but I'm still a massive kid inside. At the end of the day, we all just want to be seen, heard, and loved. So if you can see someone, if you can hear someone, if you can give someone love, then that's when you're going to have like a massive impact on them.
Yeah, that's interesting. Last week's episode was with a guy called Salim Najjar. And he said, we are grown-ups living in this meat suit, reliving the imprinted traumas of our childhood.
Oh, yeah. That is poetic as fuck. I always call it a meat puppet because it is. Like this isn't who I am. Like this is a shell. Like it's a weird thing. Like I know I'm a soul and this is just like some kind of vessel that I've been given. And I've only got one shot. Like I think my soul, I don't know about what you believe with reincarnation and stuff. I think that our soul is eternal, like the energy of us, the essence of us is eternal, and you only get one shot as you. And the thing is, like, I only have one shot as Rochelle Fox. You only have one shot as you, right? You don't get to do it again. Maybe you get to do the life thing again, like the experience of being alive, but you only get one shot in this meat suit, in this time, with this family, with these parents, in this time space, like reality. Like you don't get to do this level again exactly as it is. So just like have fun with it.
I wonder what that encompasses though. Like if we say have fun with it, like there's, and we were speaking about it off air earlier, but there's this weird balance between serious and fun and I mean, like it's trying to find this balance in our life where, I don't know, we're keeping this fun, this play, but we're also having like something that gets us excited, that springs us out of bed in the morning. And I think a byproduct of having something like that is a bit of fun. I think maybe if we potentially, I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. My mind's just racing right now about this, but like potentially it's the way to have more fun is to remove the seriousness, and so we can still have a mission, a purpose, stuff to strive towards, things that are going to spring us out of bed, get us excited, have connection in our life. And if we can do that without being so serious in a sense, a byproduct of that is we could be more playful.
I look at life like a game. Life is just a big game full of levels, tests, tribulations, ups, downs, players. Yeah, the whole thing to me is a game. That's how I keep like the fun and the seriousness. Like sometimes there are some serious moments in the game, but a lot of the time it's just like a playground.
Yep. And realizing that a game would not be fun if it was just a smooth sailing game.
100%.
So if you're playing a video game and there's no bad guys and there's no hurdles and there's no fires you have to jump over, like you're probably going to get pretty bored of that game. And then the next thing to that is you can't just skip levels in the game too. It's like you have to go through all of it.
Yeah.
Some of them are harder, some are easier. And being able to realize that, I think, allows you to go through the harder chapters a lot easier.
I think that one of the things that really helps me with that, because I think saying life's a game, it does trigger people. I've said this before, and I think people go, what do you mean it's a game? And for sometimes that like metaphor doesn't really land with people. I think you have to remember that as a human being, you came here to have an experience. That's the only thing that I really always come back to when I think about like why we have such a rainbow of emotions, the ups, the downs. It's like we came here to have a full experience. We wouldn't have come here with so much access to so much grief, pain, suffering, fear, if that wasn't meant to be part of the experience, right? So I think that we're here to be able to experience the contrast of that. Like, how would we know how beautiful love, ecstasy, passion, joy, gratitude, success, like how would we know how great that feels without the contrast?
The contrast is what makes it.
It's what makes it so beautiful. I don't know about you, but when I've gone through my darkest days, like why I'm so happy now and so content and feel the way that I feel about myself now is because I've been through a lot of darkness. It's not because I just like was born this like super happy, bubbly person. Like I got to this place because I went through some like really heavy stuff. And for me now, having any sort of like joy or happiness or gratitude or these like beautiful little moments that I experience on a day-to-day basis, they're sacred. They're so special because I know that life can feel really heavy. I know that life can feel really dark. And I feel like that's what makes life so sweet. It's that appreciation.
Being able to have those comparison points allows you to go through the times though. And I think the thing about that is realizing that like the hard is only relative to the hard that you've been through. That's why you keep going through more harder things, but you deal with them the same way. Hence why a baby's crying when they get the wrong ice cream. It's because that's their version of a hard. And the exciting part about that though is that the more hard we go through, the easier we're going to be able to deal with all the other stuff because we have worse comparisons. It's weird. Whenever I talk about comparisons, people kind of go, oh no, you shouldn't compare to someone's low time. You shouldn't compare to other people. You shouldn't do all this stuff. I think it's so freeing to be able to be in a low and compare to another person's lower, to use that as like a way for me to deal with my low easier. I
Perspective.
I actually like to see that because then I can go, oh, well, like, yeah, this is hard for my little meat suit, but like, I'm sure like
you've adapted the meat suit.
I'm sure I can probably go through this and make it out the other end. Like this similar meat suit's gone through something a bit
That's why
harder.
I love reading biographies or like hearing about people's stories or like listening to podcasts because I think that it gives you perspective on your life and you start to understand how other people went through things. And you're like, wow, if that person can get through that, then maybe I can get through this as well.
And when did things all really start to change? You've been referencing a lot in this conversation about really challenging, hard, traumatic times that you've been through growing up. Was there any moments where you were kind of in these rock bottoms where you're like, all right, like things need to change. And what did that look like?
Sure, 100%. So I guess if we go back in time, we'll go all the way back to my early 20s. And in my early 20s, things really started to fall apart for me. I was in the entertainment industry in Sydney. I was doing red carpet presenting for Today FM at the time. I was a DJ. I was kind of in the entertainment space, modeling, doing Instagram when it first started, doing a lot of different things. And while I was doing all of this, I was wearing a mask. So I was showing up and presenting and talking and doing everything, but deep down, like I was really, really suffering with a lot of mental health challenges. I use the term like I was a mental health mix bag a lot. And for me, that just really describes, when you have a party mix and then you go in there and you've got the teeth, the banana, little strawberry thing, and it's just kind of a whole mix of shit and you just don't even know what it is. That's what my mental health was. I had bulimia, I had panic attacks. I was doing like night terrors, anxiety, like what's it called? The thing when I never remember the name of this, sleep paralysis. All of this stuff was all happening at once. And I was really, really struggling with my mental health, but I wasn't really letting anyone know I was struggling. And things kind of got to a head, like a really, really big head where it was becoming like debilitating. And I started to become really suicidal. I was sort of in this place where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I think this is too much. I don't think I can handle this anymore. I really need some help. And I started seeing a cognitive behavioral therapist. And this was after trying many different things to try and fix myself. So I had gone to other therapists that had just said, oh, you have an eating disorder. And that's obvious because you're a model and you're obsessed with how you look. So there you go, eating disorder. I'm like, yeah, I have an eating disorder, but like that's not like the root cause. And then someone else has put me on, SSRIs. Like I went to like a doctor and I got SSRIs. Like I was just on all these different things trying to fix myself. And then I went to this cognitive behavioral therapist finally, and I, for the first time, really opened up about what was going on with me. So I have a lot of things that happen in my childhood from the ages of like 5 to 7 that were really, really traumatic. And I never really go into like the full-on details of those, but there were things that I would never wish on any human being. And I essentially sat down and I like wrote a letter to her about all the things that had happened to me. And I'll never forget, she read this letter. And I'd been going to these sessions for like, I think a month or so. I've been kind of just dodging what was really going on because I felt really uncomfortable. I felt like a lot of shame telling anyone what was actually going on with me. I'll never forget, she like read everything out and we were just sitting there and she had this book on the table that had always been there. And she just gets this book and she opens the page, turns it around and pushes it towards me. The top of the book said PTSD. And I was like, okay. And I never heard of PTSD before. And I read these 2 pages on what PTSD is, like medical kind of pages. It was one of those like psychiatric books explaining like, different conditions. And I was like, oh, this explains everything. This is like, I have this thing from all of these things that happened to me. And it's not that I have just an eating disorder or I'm just having panic attacks or I'm having night terrors or I have this sleep thing happening every single night or I'm super anxious. It's all of this is coming from this thing called PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder from something that happened or multiple things over many years that happened to me as a child. And that for me was this, if I can label it, then I can kill it. I'm like, okay, I've got like a label for this whole entire thing. And now I can start to like work with, all right, this is all a collection of stuff. So I started researching like how can people, get over PTSD, and I was finding all these different things, and I tried a lot of alternative methods at the time, some legal, some not in Australia, to try and like work through what I was going through, and nothing was kind of working. But then a mutual friend of my partner and I, so I've had a partner now, fiance now, but like my long-term partner, Chris Sol, one of our mutual friends had heard that I had PTSD, and then he was like, hey, Sol, like, have you ever thought of Rochelle trying meditation? And so I was like, meditation? He's like, why should she try meditation? He's like, well, like all these people are coming back from Afghanistan, from the army in America, and they're, coming back and they're really suicidal because of what's happened. They've gone through post-traumatic stress disorder from war and they're trying meditation and it's helping them. So he came back and told me like, hey, Rochelle, my partner's like, you should try meditation. I'm like, meditation? I'm like, yo, we have tried so many things. going and sitting in silence in some robes on like a mountaintop somewhere, going to some retreat, like, and trying meditation. I'm like, are you high? And I'm like, you are high, aren't you? Like, you must be high. Like, have you smoked a bong today? Like, what is going on? And he's like, no, like, I'm serious. You should try this. And I was like, oh my God, this is some woo-woo hippie shit. Absolutely not. Like, this is no. I just thought he'd lost the rocker. I thought like, no, this is silly. Anyway, he went off and he used to do a lot of nightclub posters and tour DJs back then. And I was in our place, our little square foot apartment in Potts Point. And I was sitting on this giant beanbag that I used to just lay in and zone out and stare at the wall. And then I was like, well, I guess I'll Google this meditation thing because my head's spiraling and I'm in a really, really bad place. And I find this video on YouTube and it was this giant army soldier, like this giant guy, like this guy was a unit, like some G.I. Joe kind of thing. And he's sitting there with all his medals and he's like built like a brick shit house. I'm like, oh, nice. And I'm just listening to this guy. And after I get over just like looking at him, he starts going into his story and I'm listening and I'm like, he's telling like everyone at this forum that he's talking about that he lost his brother in arms to suicide and that he was really close to doing that as well until he found meditation. I'm like, this guy's meditating? This dude's meditating? I was like, really? Like, I just didn't expect it. You know, I think back then I was judging people a lot by like what they look like, you know, just judging a book by their cover. And I'd only ever heard meditation in a very like spiritual sense way. And I was very unspiritual at the time. I was an atheist and I wasn't really connected with any of that sort of stuff. And I was just listening to him and I was just in shock. And I just thought to myself, well, if it can work for this guy, then maybe it can work for me too. So I went and researched and tried to find like a meditation studio in Sydney. I found one that did like a 3-day course. I had $1,000 in my bank at the time. I went and spent that $1,000 on this meditation, like 3-day thing and meditation. I learned it and it literally saved my life. It was this moment that I can't even describe where I started to realize that the voice inside my head was just a voice. It wasn't actually me. It was this thing that I could observe, but I didn't have to believe anymore. And before then, like I said, I was quite seriously suicidal and not just thinking about suicide, like planning it and like actively, like that was a real choice for me. And I think meditation for me gave me a gap between myself and the thoughts. It allowed me to distance myself from the voice inside my head. And it allowed me to just watch it rather than believe it. And I'm like, if I can watch my thoughts, then who's the one thinking? If I can watch them, then those thoughts aren't really me. And that is when I had this freedom, this gap, this awareness that like I'm beyond my thoughts. Like I don't have to believe everything that I think. And I started meditating religiously. Meditation became my medication. I would be DJing. I used to do a lot of events in Sydney. So I'd be DJing at like, you know, insert PR event here in Sydney. And I'd be there on the decks. I had a DJ partner at the time. And then someone would be like standing next to us, like drinking champagne. And they'd be talking about how they're going to get the Sunday scaries or, you know, whatever else. They got work in the morning and it's a Tuesday and Wednesday and whatever. You know, they're going to be, you know, hungover on Wednesday at work and they've got massive anxiety. I'd be like, hey, have you heard about meditation? So I became this meditation evangelist in Sydney where I would just be talking. And this is like over, gosh, it's over 14, 13 years ago. So this is before meditation became like cool. This is before wellness became cool. This is when like Headspace wasn't even around. Like this is before like cool wellness thing. This is when meditation was some woo-woo hippie shit. Like it's changed so much. And I think a lot of people that might be younger listening to this podcast, they don't realize how much the wellness space has changed. Like when I found this stuff and when I started doing this was totally uncool. People thought I was a quack. People thought I was like a hippie and I'd lost it. Even I thought it was some woo-woo hippie shit. Mm-hmm. But I would just be telling everyone about meditation. I'd be sitting in the media pit, like about to go and like interview some like movie star. Like I literally used to do like movie star interviews for Today FM and be sitting in the pit with all the people, like everyone's sweating. You're there with the 9 producer. You've got the people from Nova. We're all in this sweaty pit and everyone's like feeling anxious. And I'd be there, all right, everyone, let's just breathe in. Mm-hmm. exhale. And I would be calming everyone down because I'd found this tool that had completely shifted my reality. And I wanted to share it with people. I was so excited about that. And yeah, like I kept meditating for like, I think it was around 5 or so years. And I was just doing it while doing all the entertainment industry space thing. I changed my blog a little bit. Rather than just doing the fashion posts, I started doing happiness posts. So I used to do like a happiness post once a week where I would talk about gratitude or anything to do with personal development. And then from there, I decided to become a meditation teacher. I had this like pivotal moment where I was looking at my life in like doing all the entertainment industry stuff. And I was like, you know what, knowing what I now know, what would I do differently? I want to teach this. I want to get this out to people. I want to help people with this. So yeah, that's a bit of my story.
It's so cool. It's interesting how we define things and kind of have such a surface level judgment on someone. Like we just read the book by its the book by its cover, but with meditation, with the people we meet, with who we see online, there's always this like judgment. But as we spoke about at the very start of the podcast, so many people are showing one thing and then their automatic programming, as you said, is a completely different thing. The dress they post is just scrumpled up in the corner of their room. It makes me think around this pillar where when your social media doesn't reflect who you truly are, the gap between that is probably insecurity, I would say. The need to show up in a different way than you are.
Oh, to me, that just sounds like exhaustion. I'm like immediately exhausted by that concept.
This is when we unpack this, because what you were saying is when you were going through these really low times, you were hiding a lot of it.
Yeah. And exhausting.
Yes.
Completely exhausting.
Extremely. And so if we actually zoom out and go, okay, where's the gateway to getting in this very, very low place? And something that starts this has to be this need to show up in a different way, because then what happens is there's a pressure to maintain that when you're not that. And then there's like so many things that come from that. It's going, okay, I'm promoting who I'm not. I feel a little bit fraudulent. I am getting this praise if I'm doing this stuff, and then I feel empty inside because I'm not doing the thing that I'm actually doing. And then one thing will just lead to another, one thing will lead to another. And it can spiral into really bad places where you can go, like even I've had small moments in my time posting online where I've tried to show a different thing and I quickly snap myself out of it because I just go like, hang on, like what is this thing that is driving me to perceive myself in a different way? External validation is an interesting piece. Do you think a lot of the driving points for people is to be validated externally?
Yeah, I also think that a lot of people aren't comfortable being vulnerable with where they're really at, and they don't feel safe being vulnerable. They haven't had that support. So I do think it can come from that. But I think from, thinking back to my case, it was this, I didn't feel safe telling people what was really going on with me. I didn't feel safe actually asking for help. Like back then, like mental health was not like cool.
Yeah.
It was like shameful to like say that you had something going on with you. It was completely different landscape. I think for a lot of people when it comes to, just being like a different version of themselves, it's not owning all parts of us. I think a lot of people don't want to own the full spectrum of being human. They want to own the shiny parts, but they don't want to own the suffering. They don't want to own the parts of themselves or their shadow. And I think we forget that we all have a shadow. Like I have a freaking shadow. You have a shadow. Like the nicest person in the world that you might know has a shadow. Your mom has a shadow. But we want to just think that everyone's like super nice and super humble. Everyone has a shadow. You're a human being. You can't escape it.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the same for women, but tell me if you think it is. But what I find with men as well is we don't feel comfortable sharing a negative emotion while we're in it. We only feel comfortable sharing it when we're on the other side. So there's this weird feeling of going, I will share the hard time I'm in, but only once I've made it to the light at the other side of the tunnel, not while I'm in it. It's a really weird polarity because I don't know. I feel like a lot of men will feel like it's this journey for themselves and it's a game against themselves in a sense where they're like, I need to do this. And then once I make it out the other side, that's when I can share this and be inspiring to show that I've gone from A to B. But it's just this weird point where it's like trying to find this line of vulnerability and openness to where you are at in your journey as well, I think.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Do you feel like you mentioned obviously like when you're DJing and you're talking about this like masculine, feminine, like you're inspired to create that and see how awesome that was all going and allowing them to lean into their true selves.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fascinated by this concept around like the things that drive us, what like if you talk about our childlike person, what before we were weathered with all of this stuff and we were just at our purest sense, like what is our deep desires and what do we truly want as a soul? I'm interested by this. Do you think that deep down what men and what women want are different, or do you think it's kind of?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think we're very, very different with what we want. I think people in general are very different. I think everyone's like an individual and we all work differently. But yeah, I think men and women are wired like very differently. We have like just like very different primal wiring, 100%. I think that it's an interesting thing with the masculine, feminine like conversation, because I do think that you have to remember that like I have masculine and feminine, you have masculine and feminine within you. But yeah, 100%. We have like different urges and different desires. And I think that, you know, some of that's changed as we've progressed, like, and like the society progresses and like people want different things. But I think at our core, it's different.
Yeah. This is only speaking from personal experience from a lot of people that I've spoken to, which I've been really fascinated to unpack, is a lot of the manifesting culture that I've experienced over the last few years can sometimes align with like this boss bitch energy culture as well.
Yeah.
And so it's like I don't need no man energy. I'm manifesting my life and I'm doing it myself. And I often struggle with if deep down the woman really believes that like I don't need no man, and I feel that. And I just wonder whether there's this culture that's supporting this independence and stuff, which is awesome. If that's what you want to do, great. But I often wonder if there's this, if it's deep down what they truly want to do, and whether it can serve a negative effect on someone trying to do something that maybe they don't want to do.
It's interesting. I don't think I ever have that I don't need no man. I want my man.
Yes.
I choose my man. And I think that that's for me, I think it can come from like a wounded place. I think sometimes like the wounded feminine, like this feeling that we have to, you know, do it all and that there is no support. And sometimes I think that's a protector part. You know, people have been burnt by the opposite sex or like by their fathers, and they didn't have that like healthy example of masculine around them. And I think the more healthy examples of masculinity that we can have, like the more the feminine will open to that. I think the feminine is always responding to the masculine a lot of the time. So I think a lot of the time when I see like like this female, you know, in that kind of masculine energy, it's probably because they haven't got like a healthy example of masculinity in their life, and that doesn't feel safe for them. And that's like a journey that they'll go on to like heal that and navigate that and move through that.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think it comes down to too many weak men, to be fair. Like too many.
I wasn't going to say that exactly, but hey, I'll back it up.
I entirely believe that most of the problems come down to too many weak men, and men are being brought up too weak. But you said something in another show that I was really fascinated by. You quoted, "If you're falling apart right now, maybe that's exactly what you need. Maybe you need to fall apart so things can fall into place." What does that mean for you?
I think that sometimes when we're going through life and we want change, we want something to alter in our life, we have to realize that maybe it needs to be burned down to the ground in order for something new to be rebuilt. I think a lot of the time we are trying to hold on to things too much. We have this like loss aversion as humans where we're always trying to avoid losing something. We're so worried about losing something and something going that we're trying to hold on too tightly. There's this beautiful moment in my life that I spoke about where I decided to, you know, stop the entertainment industry stuff and start going on like a different path. And in my book, Magnetic, I call it having like a fresh page perspective. And it's where you really ask yourself, like knowing what I know now, looking at my life as it is, what would I do differently? If I could start it all over again, if I could burn it all down, take it to ground zero, if I could start it all again, what would I do differently from a blank slate? How would I choose differently? How would I show up differently? What people would be in my life? What people wouldn't be in my life? What behaviors would I accept? What behaviors wouldn't I accept? What would my standards be? How would I eat? How would I wake up in the morning? Maybe like the next version of you is a completely different alternate universe version of you. And you have to actually completely let go and just shed all the other things that you've been holding on to. Because a lot of the time, the things that we're holding on to are keeping us attached to this old way of being. And I think maybe I have a stronger not attachment, but a stronger connection to that because I've traveled so much that I felt like my life has been burnt down to the ground so many times where I've left everything and I've started again. And I definitely can sense like how powerful that is, just to completely re-envision your life with new connections, new people, new challenges, new environment. You become a different person depending on where you are. Like every single place in the world has a different energy. Every single person has a different frequency. Like we're always in these environments that are influencing us, and we're also influencing the environment. Like our inner world creates our outer world, but there is no denying that there are other forces at play, that when you go to certain places, you'll feel different ways. So yeah, for me, that just is a acceptance that sometimes getting what you desire, what the next version of you, does require things completely collapsing. Sometimes you have to break down to break through. And the breakdown is like the most beautiful part. Like when I'm breaking down and everything's falling to shit, yeah, sure. I'll have my moment. I'll have my like, oh no, woe is me. Why is this happening to me? I still have those moments, right? Like I'll still get in that, but then I'll pull myself off the ground and I'll be like, all right, it's obviously meant to happen. Like it's not for me. It's not meant to work out like this. I have to accept, like sometimes you ask for something and the universe, the world, God, whatever you want to call it, the energy of existence turns around and goes, well, if you want this, then you need to get rid of this. And sometimes that doesn't make sense. Like I love that Steve Jobs quote, which I know that you've said on this podcast before, but sometimes like the dots literally do not connect, right? Until you look backwards. Sometimes there are certain things that have to happen that make no sense at the moment, that are just complete, like, what the fuck moments, but that all happen for a greater purpose, for a greater reason. And I think that humans always try and control too much. We have to learn to surrender, to let go, to let flow, to allow the universe to unfold in ways that we can't even imagine. Because the thing is, like, this force, whatever we are in, like, I do not know how a little acorn becomes a 100-foot oak. Do you? I look at that. I sometimes really think about that. I look at a little acorn and then I look at a 100-foot oak and I'm like, like that's my face. I think about this often when I really want to try and control the universe. I'm like, how could I make sense of that, right? And I watch nature docos a lot and you just get your mind blown. I'm like, why is it that I'm trying to micromanage my fucking life when I look at nature? It's not micromanaging shit. It's just surrendering. It's letting go. It's letting flow. And that's where magical things happen. So our little human ego tries to go like, I'm going to control the things and I need this person to keep liking me and I need to hang on to this relationship and oh my God, he can't leave me and he doesn't want me, but I'm going to keep showing. Babe, let it fucking go. You know, if he's not choosing you, walk away, right? If it's not coming towards you, if it's not flowing, if it feels like an absolute slog and there's something in your gut, like some things are hard and you got to keep showing up, right? But if in your gut, you can feel like you're just working against like the flow of the universe, let it go.
Yeah.
And let it burn. Let it burn to the ground.
Yeah. And I guess I love the passion, by the way, but I guess the feeling of being like, okay, this has happened, divine timing, good. It's meant to be. If we're dreading over something that's just happened, it just means we're not zooming out enough. Because if we zoom out enough, we know that all of these times, as you said, they're the most life-changing. The low times are the most beautiful times in reflection, because you're looking back and going, holy shit, that transformed my life and it's led me to the person I am today, in which I am proud of.
I have a little exercise for everyone.
Fuck yeah, for those times.
Yeah, 100%. I have a little exercise. So I have this exercise I do very regularly. It's called lessons and blessings. So go down with a piece of paper right now, anyone listening at home, and write down on a piece of paper lessons and blessings. And you will find that there are many lessons in your life, things that were hard, things that were difficult, things that just like felt like an absolute shit moment where you're like, why is this happening? Right? And if you go back and you start connecting the dots, so many of those lessons actually alchemized into blessings. But it was just in the moment where the lesson was happening when it was happening, you didn't think it was a blessing. When it was happening, you thought it was like the worst thing ever. But when you can go back and start connecting those dots, actually start thinking about things like that, when the lessons happen, you have more trust. You're like, okay, there is probably a blessing in this. It might not be this week. It might not be this month. It might be in 5 years' time. But maybe I needed to go through this in order to get to this next step or to have this next experience. And look, I don't think everything can be alchemized. I do think just some shit things happen and that's life and that we have to go through these ups and downs. But I like to alchemize things so much. I love to go back and see like what lesson was actually a massive blessing in disguise, because it helps me realize that maybe I'm not being able to control this right now. It's not making sense right now, but I'm not meant to make sense of it right now.
Yeah, the question I love to ask is, what is the benefit of this happening? So like when you're in those low times, or when you're stuck on a fear that you've got, or you're just dreading over things, or something really bad's happened, like a breakup or whatever it might be. It's like, what is the benefit of this happening?
Yeah.
And it's crazy how you can actually find stuff, and what you're looking for, you'll find. And I think we just get so consumed on the negative thing. And I think it's natural for us to do that. It's kind of we've got to go against our natural way of being, because we fear isolation, and we don't want to be left out, and all of the things
we have a negativity bias.
Yeah. We grieve all the things that could have happened. The list goes on and on. What you said before, and the thing you had in your book, Magnetic, is obviously like the turning of the new page, or what was the
fresh page perspective.
Fresh page perspective. This is really cool, because if we actually remove all of these things that we've onboarded, and say we will put on this earth fresh start with all the information we know, like what would we do? How would we act? How would we show up?
I do this all the time. This is why I'm moving literally to Europe in like next week, because it's a fresh page perspective.
Yeah, but the thing that's crazy about this is like we put all of these imaginary ceilings on our life and what we can achieve. We think that when we're setting our goals for the new year, we want to make 150 grand this year because we made 100 grand this year and last year. So all our thought is, okay, well, I want to make 50% more. It's like, well, no, if you were starting scratch, you didn't have the 100 grand comparison point, and you were looking at all the information that you know and how to make money and the things that you're working towards, would you put the $150,000 ceiling on? Probably not. We're just doing it because it's a realistic goal comparatively to what we've done in the past. I love this fresh page perspective, being able to eliminate all of that and see it for how it actually is. And go, okay, what are the things that we want? Who are the people that we want to have in our life? And be able to make our decisions on the premise of the decision, not the beliefs we have around it.
Yeah.
We'll actually start to make change in our life.
When you start doing it, and you literally use the frame, knowing what I now know, like knowing everything that I currently know, and I take it to ground and just like see it all and can start all over again. It's a beautiful, freeing place to be.
And then also though, having this frame of going, yes, I know all of this, but also it's all interpreted. I'm interpreting this, and the way I'm viewing the world is because of my interpretations. And that's another freeing thought in itself, because then when you see something you don't like, you can realize that you're actually interpreting it that way. So why don't you like it? And then figure out that and go to the next level and go to the next level. I think there's so you mentioned before about the we're separate from our mind, we're beyond our mind. And I think what happens is we kind of let the mind control us. And most of the time, unfortunately, our mind's like kind of our biggest enemy. It just wants to like tear us down in a sense, as opposed to be our biggest supporter.
I always say, don't be a brains bitch.
Don't be a brains bitch.
Don't be a brains bitch.
What does that mean?
For me, that just is a saying that I've said to myself for years, because I think my mind can sometimes be my worst enemy. So just realizing that what my mind says and the things that my mind tries to tell me I can't do, or that I am and that I'm not, it's like sometimes you really just need to like separate yourself from that voice inside your head. A metaphor I've always used is, imagine you're in a car. For me, I used to have my inner bitch, right? My inner bitch, she was driving the car, and she was just moving and driving and taking it on a rampage everywhere. And then my higher self was in the backseat. Now when I started meditating, I got my inner bitch and I got her into the passenger seat, right? And then I got my higher self started driving. Now I got my inner bitch right in the back seat, right? And then she's sitting there tied up and she's yelling, trying to like tell me where to go, but I'm like not listening. Now my inner bitch is all the way in the boot with a gobsmacker on, tied up, and sometimes she's smashing on the boot, telling me things. I'm like, I can't hear you. I've just got my higher self driving. I've got the universe on the GPS. My subconscious mind is coded and that's the engine. And I'm just going on this beautiful road trip. So I think you have to realize that sometimes your inner voice is not always your best friend, especially when it's trying to pull you down. And you have to, for me, it's getting beyond that inner voice with practices like breath work, like meditation, anything where you can start to separate yourself from the mind and also just get back into your body. I think your body has so much wisdom, like realizing that your mind is always trying to take you away from the moment. But I always like to use my 5 senses. Like your 5 senses, that's how you are here in the now. So what can you taste? What can you touch? What can you see? What can you smell? I often go on these walks where it's like a 5 senses walk, where I will literally go for 20 minutes using 2 minutes of each of those, like in 20 minutes, 2 minutes for each time, basically going through one of my senses. So I'm like, okay, what can I touch? And I'll be touching the leaves or the trees as I walk past. Like, what can I smell? Taking a really deep inhale. Okay, what can I see? Like really looking around my surroundings. Like what is there on my walk? Not here, not down. Like what is there? What can I see? Like really getting back in tune with your senses, coming back into your body and moving yourself out of your head, coming into the present moment.
Yeah, so a senses walk, that's quite powerful because the 5 senses are the thing that allows us to come into the present moment.
It's your body. Like that's like where you are. It's your anchor. If you are ever anxious, if you're ever freaking out about anything, come back to your senses. Come back to the 5 senses. That for me is like how I ground myself. Like the minute I'm nervous about something, I'll like grab a glass and I'll just start feeling the glass, feeling the ribbing, or I'll like sit down and I'll just touch my hair, or I'll just like pat my hand, just like allowing myself to be in my body, just to anchor myself in this moment. Then, okay, what can I smell? Like your senses are so powerful. And I think people forget that you have 5 senses. It sounds so silly, but so many people they've never spent time with their 5 senses. But that's like what makes you like here in your body. Like that's how you're interpreting the world.
Do you think Bali helped you understand that more? Because obviously it's a lot of nature and…
Yeah. Yes and no. I think that Bali has been such a beautiful part of my journey in the sense that going somewhere which is a spiritual melting pot with so many expats and being, in that environment was so helpful. But Bali is also very polarizing. It's not just all beautiful. There's a lot of chaos in Bali as well. Like I think it's a place of polarity. It's so much all at once. But yeah, I think it definitely helped me in a sense to disconnect from… I think the thing that Bali helped me with the most was disconnect from the identity that I was before I went there and just to kind of create like a new identity for myself. And then, anytime I've traveled to any place, it helps you tap into a new part of who you are. And I think that's a really interesting thing because you're a different person in different places.
What are your thoughts on solitude and like spending time alone when you're going through these times? Like, because if you're thinking about like challenges that you're going through, when I look at and relate it back to my life, I a lot of the time will go through challenges and I'll find different things to distract myself. So it might be I'll have a pen and paper and that in itself is distracting myself because I'm just writing as opposed to actually thinking and feeling. Or I'll go and hang out with someone and I'll kind of distract myself. And I find that it's not until I go into true solitude where I've just got no distractions and it's me, I'm actually able to like think freely and see what's on my mind and reflect and marinate in that stuff and come up with answers. Have you found solitude's been helpful for you?
100%. I think getting space in your time, whether you're going through something or not going through something where you don't have any inputs is like one of the biggest game changers. And I think entrepreneurial life game advantage that most people aren't realizing and playing. Most people are connected to something else 24/7. How is the voice of the universe, truth, God, the divine source, whatever it is that you want to call it, how the hell is it meant to give you an idea if you don't ever give it time to give you an idea? If you're always filling it with noise, if you've always got a podcast playing, if you've always, a podcast and things, great. Take in the information, then sit on it. ruminate on it, like actually allow it to permeate in your body and to think about it and to like think about, well, what did that mean for me? What action steps do I need? Just taking things in without actioning anything. Oh my God, that's like one of the biggest issues that I see these days. It's like you can just be in this doing piece, but not actually embodying anything. I talk about this in my book, Magnetic. In the embodiment step, I have this 4 steps for like manifestation in there. And the last step is really about like embodiment. And I talk about in the book how for many years of my life, I was walking around being someone that wanted to manifest, that was talking about manifestation, that was talking about meditation. And yeah, I was doing meditation and I was doing manifestation, but I wasn't fully embodying it wholeheartedly on a moment-to-moment basis. It was something that was not really embedded in me. It was a lot more just like I was doing it in little bursts, right? And I think the thing you have to understand is to really change, to have transformation, it's an embodiment of the knowledge. You can know everything. We live in a world with ChatGPT right now. We're going to have people that know everything but embody so little. The game-changing thing in this day and age is to be the embodiment of what it is that you're teaching, or to be the embodiment of what it is that you want to create or change in your life, because knowledge is now like, we're in a free game with knowledge. It's not really valuable. Like you can ChatGPT or find out anything these days, but knowing something is completely different from embodying it. And for me, embodiment is really this process of going within and actually like letting it sink in and having those visceral changes within yourself. So I spent a lot of time without inputs. When I was writing my book, Magnetic, I spent so much time offline. I spent so much time not looking at anything. I stopped my podcast for a year. I stopped taking information. I stopped absorbing things. And instead I started like actually thinking about like all of the lessons and having it come out of me in an original way. Because I think it's very easy to be a carbon copy of other people these days and to say the trending quote or to have like the trending spiel on something. But like that's not true embodiment to me. Embodiment comes from like actually being in it.
Yeah, we fill our minds with stuff that doesn't allow any room for free space for invite other stuff in.
Yeah, and you have to, your mind is, look, you have to understand that you're an antenna, right? You're not just a transmitter of energy, you're also like a receiver of energy. People really forget the receiving part, okay? To receive energy, to receive some sort of intelligence or some sort of awareness or some sort of original thought, right? You have to give your mind and your body space to receive. A lot of people will talk about like, I had this really great idea in the shower. Why do you think you have a really great idea in the shower? You had a great idea in the shower because your nervous system's relaxed, because you're probably not looking, scrolling, talking, texting, doing something for like, 4 or 5 minutes, and you're just there with your thoughts with some kind of like calming element. And finally, the universe, God, source, whatever you want to call it, is like, oh my God, I've been trying to get to you, but you've just been filling your head with all of this stuff and you've been in this scroll hole and in this TikTok thing, saying these TikTok songs in your head, humming them. I've been trying to give you this idea. Like you asked for this amazing idea. Like so many people walk around being like, I want to figure out how to, make a business or do this thing. And it's like, that idea is there. It's in the ether, but you got to give it space, babe. You got to you got to give it time and space to actually get in. Like it has to permeate into your brain. It can't do that if you're just there listening to the latest TikTok sound, getting like brain rot. This is why for me as meditation is such a powerful thing. Like I meditate with myself. It is a date with myself. I allow the volume to come down and I watch my mind and I come into this space of peace. And I come into this space of openness and this space where I've allowed myself like a little gap for things to come in. And straight after I meditate, I don't go look at my phone. I don't go do anything. I'll just go for a walk or I'll just go do something around the house. I won't listen to something. I'll just allow myself to be a receiver, to not be transmitting or creating or trying to take things down. Yeah.
That's why I think solo sabbaticals are so powerful as well. Just being able to be in a new environment. So you're kind of wanting to explore in a sense, but then also being alone. So you've got this like level of just curiosity about you, I think, and letting your mind wander and stuff and not feeling like you have as many responsibilities and allowing that space for the all the goodness to actually come in. And
something my partner does a lot, which I think is a really healthy thing that I would suggest if you want to action this. People might be like, okay, so what, I just have to have longer showers, which might not be great because I don't know if Australia's in a drought right now, but sometimes we are. My partner does sunsets by himself a lot. So he'll go and sit on this hill in Bronte while we've been in Australia with a notepad and pen, and he'll just sit there for the duration of a sunset. And he'll do like a little bit of movement, a little bit of breath work by himself. He'll sit on a cliff there and just like write things out that come to him. And for the duration of the sunset, you have something beautiful happening inside of you. It's like a wind down at an end of the day, and you're just there in silence. I think having a ritual where you create space and time to be in silence, to be in that solitude, to allow things to come in, because if you're always just taking things, but you're never actually allowing the space to let things settle, you're going to find yourself really confused. And you're also going to find yourself chasing things. You're going to be chasing the newest trend. You're going to be focusing on other people's life rather than really getting into your authenticity of like, what it is that you actually desire? What is it that you actually want? Because there's a lot of noise. We live in social media with a lot of noise, and what's right for someone else might not be right for you. And I think a lot of people don't take the time to be with themselves, to know like what is actually true to them and what's just noise.
Yeah. And I guess you kind of, when you don't do that, you end up being like stressed all the time. You end up kind of, your mind's racing, you're constantly chasing something. So then what happens is your central nervous system's firing and you're never really in a state of being able to invite things in. You're just constantly on edge.
I don't know about you, but TikTok is not like a calming thing for me, or Instagram. Like these days you can go on Instagram. I always say like, don't let a Fortune 500 company control your consciousness. It's dangerous.
Very.
Like that's like, to me, like my consciousness, my mind is one of the most powerful things that I have. Like where I direct my attention, where you put your attention, that's where you will create from. Like it's something that you have to be really aware of.
Yeah, and I think that's the key there. The first step is actually being aware of it and being conscious of what's going on.
Yeah.
So you can catch yourself in these environments where, yeah, if you doom scroll for 30 minutes, catch yourself 30 minutes later and go, hang on, what have I just been doing? What have I just been, can I recall anything that I've just taken in?
Put timers on the phone, put timers on, like, so you're aware of it, because it's so easy to lose yourself in this, but like put those little reminders, and it's like, oh, you've now spent an hour today. Like that sort of stuff is so important. Having that feedback loop.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I want to commend you. You're awesome. And I love your energy. I love your passion and just like excitement about a lot of stuff. And I think, it's no surprise that you've done such amazing things.
Appreciate that.
What's next for you, and where can people find you?
I think what's next for me is, so my book Magnetic got like 8 or 9 translation deals all around the world. So I'm kind of doing a bit of an impromptu world tour. So I'm going over to Europe next. I've got my German translation coming out. I've got the US book coming out in November 7th. It's out in Australia now. It's out in the UK now. So for me, next is really just sharing the magic of this book. I feel like I've spent like 10 years of my life in the health and wellness space, like going on my own, deep kind of like dark night of the soul, if you want to call it that. And now the next thing is really just sharing the book and talking more about Magnetic and helping people wake up to the fact that like you are the creator of your own reality. You really can change your life and transform, but you have to start to understand how that programming works, like how everything is happening beneath the surface. And that's really what Magnetic is all about. So yeah, that's my next chapter.
And I'll leave all of those details so you can get the book and follow Rochelle online so you can stay up to date. And if you've made it to the end and you made it this far, screenshot this and tag Rochelle and I on your Instagram stories. Just let us know you made it to the end and that you enjoy the show. And then leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple, because it really helps the show grow and it helps us and people.
I will back you up with that. If you haven't yet left a 5-star review and you listen to this show, go do it, because it's probably one of the best ways that you can get more incredible people on there.
Yeah, exactly right. You hear it from her first.
Go do it.
Thanks, Rochelle, so much.
No worries.
I really appreciate it. And it's so cool. I'm keen to follow along and support wherever I can.
Epic.
We'll sign out for this week. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Ciao.